ideas for like the episodes, I always like come up with like, I don't know if it's like YouTube, but like it's like there's always like things I want to address and like talk about, and it's like we always have like a main like I guess main topic of the episode, but it's like I feel like it never turns out that way, or it's like not perfect. Does that make sense? Like what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
I guess that's like the good thing about doing like your own podcast, not like hired by anyone, and you kind of do it for fun, slash like you want to be like famous, but you're not famous. But I think that's the fun about it, right? You think?
It's probably the only podcast that I can eat on air.
Honestly, though, that's not a big deal. Like I feel like that's like kind of like whatever. Like as long as I mean, the dedication on your end is like pretty killer. Like I ate before this, so I was like, I was cutting it close. Oh, that brings me my first thing I wanted to talk about today. I think I mastered on how to cook rice. Like I mastered the way of cooking rice, and it's a beautiful thing.
I mean, rice cookers can kind of do it better than like any human.
So I do use a rice cooker, but there's a madness to the method of even putting in the rice cooker.
Okay. I'll entertain it. Let's hear what the mastery of the rice cooking action looks like.
I think the rice cooker is a great invention, and I couldn't even tell you how old my rice cooker is. I think I got it when I was living with my parents. I haven't lived with my parents since I was 21, and I had it before I probably turned 21.
Okay.
So probably like what, 8 years probably at least minimum.
Yeah.
Because I'm 28 now. But I actually just saw a video, and I realized because when you throw rice in the rice cooker, you get it out. What I've told on the podcast before, jasmine rice is, I feel like, my favorite because it keeps like moisture and it doesn't really dry out like basmati, brown rice, like regular white rice. But I've been digging jasmine lately. But the idea of prepping it before like putting in the rice cooker is like, I feel like has hands down made it like a lot better. So pretty much what I do is I'll measure out the rice. Honestly, measuring out the rice doesn't really matter. It's so funny. I kind of guesstimate on like the macros on the rice because I don't like, because the dry to wet like is such a weird like method. And so far I've been getting it right, and I've been staying on track with maintaining weight. So I'm just gonna keep eyeballing it out. Everything else, like I kind of try to, if I scale it, I'll scale it. But so what I'll do is I'll put the rice in the rice cooker, and then I'll put a bunch of water in it. Obviously fill it past the rice, and I'll rub it around my fingers, wash it out, and then I'll dump it, and then I'll repeat 2 more times. So on the third time, I'll rub it through and then drain it as much as possible. Obviously, like there's probably some leftover water, whatever. On the third time, what I'll do is I'll fill it up completely, and then I'll let it sit for 30 minutes. So I'll let the rice soak in the water for 30 minutes. And then at the 30-minute mark, I'll drain it. And then I will fill up the water. And then there's like 2 methods people use, but I've been really, really lucky about this method. But once you fill the water above the rice, you want to put your finger in the middle. Obviously, keep the rice even, but you want to put your finger in, and then like you want the water to be halfway between your first knuckle line on your finger, and you want to be in the middle of that. And then that's when I'll throw a little salt in there, and then I'll throw in the rice cooker. And hands down, like after 3 days of refrigeration, the rice feels like it did the first day.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think most of the time with the rice cooking, I think it's the prep work that's most important than the cooking.
Yeah. So. Interesting.
Yeah, try it out, bud.
I used to rinse rice, but it's too much effort now. So I just like throw some rice in like the pot, fill it up with some water. I fill it up I usually do 2 cups of rice, and there's like a little 1 cup scooper, so 1, 2, and then I fill it up to the 2 line. I throw it in. I hit power and white for white rice, and then set and forget it for like 25 to 30 minutes.
Gosh, buddy, your rice probably, I'm telling you, man, this is gourmet rice. I'm telling you. Try it once, and I bet you'll never go back. You'll be like, holy cow.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty interested now.
I've only been interested because of the fact of how much rice I've been eating lately. And it's like such a cheap carbohydrate source, and like honestly, like it digests really well with me. I feel great. Like I just eat like probably maybe a cup and a half of like wet rice instead of people like, well, if it's dry, that's like 3 cups, 4 cups of rice you just ate. But no, I'm gonna just say wet so you guys don't try to, call me out on that. But like I did like 1.5 cups of wet rice and then some chicken, and like I feel great. Like the
Yep.
mood doesn't really change. I don't feel like I'm in like a coma, and I feel really good. Like especially doing a day, but like an hour and a half before deadlifting, like it's amazing.
I really don't get that anymore, to be honest with you. And my sleep, to be honest with you, has been pretty shit lately. Just with like all the travel and whatnot. Like I drove like 5 hours up to Vermont on Friday, and then got to bed kind of late. Was sleeping like in like a random motel type situation for the race. Then drove 5 hours back after running like 9 miles up and down a mountain on Saturday. So I was exhausted then. I had to get up early, and I just couldn't sleep for whatever reason. I mean, I was always around like 6.5 to 7 hours, probably 7.5 hours, but it was like, that was like how much time I was like in bed. So I was definitely not sleeping the whole time. And then Sunday.
Do you tend to get anxious like when you can't sleep like that? Is that like what it is, or?
My anxiety is definitely higher, and I can't use different like mitigation strategies as effectively, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what's been helping me. Obviously though, like there's probably other stuff that helps where it's like I keep myself pretty darn comfortable, but like the ashwagandha kind of helped with that. Like, and that's why I've been consistently taking it for what I think this pretty much like this whole year I've been consistently taking it. So
I think that sounds right.
It's calmed me down a lot. I mean, it calmed me down during the day and night. So I take it once in the morning and once at night, to be honest. And I haven't worried about upping the dose or anything because it's been working fine. I just don't really care to mess with that stuff.
Nice. Yeah. But yeah, I remember like back when we were in like working in the office, like every once in a while, I definitely would get that. Like after I had a big meal, I would get that kind of like, but like I feel fine right now.
Yeah.
And then after we finish this, like I'm gonna hit up the gym, and
Did you just eat some rice too, or?
Yeah. So it was like.
Look at that. Both of us are on point with like almost the same meal. But you did beef, right?
I did ground beef, and then
yeah, I did chicken.
And we had some like leftover black beans. So I threw some black beans as well, and then some Franks. That's why I was like all red and whatnot.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I was gonna say, it's not a good meal unless you're sweating afterwards from all the heat or the salt. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you digest like some hot sauce and stuff, and you're just like, holy cow! Did I run a lap or something?
It's just Frank's though, so it's like super mild.
Do you put that shit on everything?
Yep. Oh, Joe.
Oh, by the way, guys, 10% in our code. Roman is huge at Frank's checkout. You could do that now. We do have a 10% discount, guys.
That'd be a sweet sponsor, Frank's. We would definitely rep.
I don't think they need help, man. I just feel like they've had one commercial in the past 10 years, like where they go, I put that on everything, and they're like, that's it, man. I mean, they've been around forever.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of rice, real quick, sorry to interrupt. Uncle Ben's rice, whatever you want to call it. I think they just changed it from to Ben's rice. If you guys are listening to this episode, please release your coconut jasmine rice. Holy cow. Sometimes I love the lazy ready to rice microwave rices, and they've been out for freaking like 4 months of the coconut jasmine. I don't get what's going on. There shouldn't be a shortage on coconuts, but Ben's, please get your shit together because I want coconut jasmine rice. That's all I got to say.
You tell him, buddy.
I just had a rant real quick. Dude, it's the best Ben's rice that's made, like the ready rice out of all of them. That's like my favorite one.
Yeah.
Hands down.
No, I haven't had that before. Interesting.
It's buttery, smooth, and coconutty.
Oh, yeah.
What were you going to say now? Sorry to interrupt. I had to say one more thing about the rice.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I was in like a quote unquote like food coma that like you get that kind of like tired lull like after you eat. And it's probably just because like I mean my sleep wasn't great last week, but like before that it was good, and I'm starting back into a regular sleep cycle. So I think that like your body can kind of handle like some ups and downs if it's kind of like on a short term perspective, you know, like a couple days there. I wouldn't recommend ever trying to get like only like 4 hours of sleep, but if you have to do it, you know, like in the short term, like, you know, 1 or 2 nights type dealio, I think for the most part your body can regulate itself. I would almost like, yeah, I'd put money on the fact that like your cortisol and your stress levels will definitely be higher. You like won't have as well like your like emotional control will be probably pretty poor. At least I've experienced that with myself. I think I've seen that in the literature, and then I've experienced that in like other folks as well. So another great reason to get your sleep in, folks.
And that's why on the last episode, guys, we were talking so much about how like Christian Guzman gaining like 10 pounds of like solid muscle within a year is kind of hard, especially if like I'm pretty sure he like openly said like he was sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night and sleeping in his office. I think we lost you on video, buddy.
Yeah, it's one of the in moving. They just, like call me like incessantly, and man, I haven't gotten
Well, no. I mean, no. Keep going, because what I was going to ask you before I guess we get into our topic, if we get into the topic, is Roman, what did you just accomplish this Saturday? Because I totally forgot about asking you if we wanted to talk about it, but since everything just pops up in my head last minute, what did you do this Saturday, and how was it, buddy?
I finished my my Tough Mudder that I've been training for like 6 or 7 months for. So it wasn't timed or anything. Like it was.
Did you time it yourself at all or no?
Not really, because
Okay.
like I put my phone like in like I double bagged it, because like I knew it would get wet and whatnot. But I wanted to have it on in case like something happened, like to myself or like to any of like my teammates or whatever, like for like emergency reasons. Which nothing did, thankfully. And Tough Mudder actually has like a super cool like first aid protocol.
Nice.
If somebody's hurt, like for example, there's like one time where this happened. There's a guy who was like sitting down with his friend, and like people were like stopping commonly because it was freaking challenging. Like literally, we would like run up a mountain, run down a mountain, run up a mountain, run down a mountain, do like 3 obstacle courses, like or obstacles in a row, run up a mountain, do another obstacle course, run halfway down the mountain, do a course, run the other way. And like there's 30 obstacles across like, I don't know, 8.25 miles. It was supposed to be like 9.32 miles, I think, but I think it was just over 8. But anywho, so came upon this guy. He was kind of like a bigger guy. He was sitting with his buddy, and one of his ankles was wrapped like with his shirt. He like ripped his shirt and he like wrapped his ankle. And me and like one of my teammates were like, "Hey, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I just kind of like stepped wrong, and my like foot feels kind of off. We're like, do you need help? Like, do you need a hand like going down the mountain, yada yada?" He's like, "No, I'm just gonna sit here." I think like a couple minutes later, he was like, "Actually, probably should get help." But it was like after we like already took off. So somebody yelled like first aid. So like when you do, you're supposed to stop. You're like supposed to put up like an X in the air. Everyone stops. I like look up the mountain, and it's just hundreds of people have like X's up in the air. There's a first aid guy at like the base of the mountain. You can like hear him. He's like calling in. He's like, "Okay, yep, we need first aid." And they like got like an ATV or something. I didn't see like how they ended up resolving it, but they like went up. They got the guy apparently and like took care of everything. So it's pretty cool. It's a very supportive,
Nice.
which is really neat. So yeah, it's super cool. Totally highly recommend it. I would say if it's your first time doing a Tough Mudder, probably don't do the one in New England in Stratton, Vermont, and the 15K if this is your first time, because it was like, so like our group started out jogging, and then like after like the first maybe like kilometer or 2, people were like, "All right, I need to stop." And like I could have personally kept jogging, but like we wanted to stay together as a team. But like I probably could have only gone another like kilometer or 2 before I would have been like, "What the heck?"
What
And
are
it's
these kilometers you're talking about?
yeah, so like another maybe half a mile or mile.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because like some of the climbs were pretty intense.
Yeah.
Like people that were like clearly in excellent shape were like stopping and taking breaks and stuff like that. And it's not like, unless you're like an elite runner, it's not really like that kind of event. Because like when you come up to a obstacle, sometimes there might be a line for it before you can do it. And you can skip any obstacles you want. Because like we had another friend who like he skipped it because he didn't want to get shocked, which is like totally understandable. Because that was probably like my least favorite. It's just like weird. Like I don't get how it's like a challenge, you know?
Wait,
It's
what
like,
was it?
you get shocked. So there's two like electrifying obstacles or electrified obstacles. So one of them, I forget what its name was, but they put like a tarp down, they fill it with some water, and then they put these like these electrical wires that hang down, and you have to like crawl through the mud, water, and like rocks that they place on the tarp, and you just get shocked the whole way. So like my forearms were just like, they kept on clenching up. It was super weird. But you crawl the 15 or 20 yards, whatever, and then you get up and then you go to like, you keep jogging or whatever. So that was the first one. And the second one was the last obstacle before the finish line. And it was like another tarp that you like run through. They had water on it, and they had the wires that were hanging down like almost to like the tarp, maybe 12 inches like above that, and you just get shocked the whole way that you like run through it. So it's like, why do we have shock? Like, what is the, like, I understand like you want to do like cool fun obstacles,
Yeah.
but like I still don't get the point of the shock ones. So
Yeah, I personally I'd probably skip those two as well. I mean, that would be me.
And I did end up skipping one because I'm a very poor swimmer, and I almost drowned on one. I did try it, but I almost drowned and died. So I had to be saved. And then the next deep water one, I was like, I'm going to skip this one.
Wait, what was the first one first?
The first one was like, so you climb up onto this like kind of ladder type dealio. It's not super high, maybe like 6 feet max. And it has like a slide. You slide into like ice bath type dealio. And it's like a big moat. And so you go into the water. They say it was like 5 foot on average, but like when I came back up, I freaked out because I was cold, and I was like, shit, I'm a bad swimmer. So like my instant reaction, as opposed to like swimming to the end. So they had like so this is the moat. They had like a obstacle here that you had to swim under, and then they had a rope on the other side that you climbed up to like get out of the moat. My instant reaction was to be like, help, and then like kind of swim, kind of drown, like towards like the side, and grabbed onto the guy's, like he had like a pole. So I like tried to pull myself out. He's like, no, we're not doing that. He was like, we're gonna like walk you to the end. I was like, okay, fine. So he like walks me to the end, like, puts it under type dealio, like grab the other side and like walks me over, and then somebody helped me out. So that was entertaining. I almost died.
I mean, how clear was the water at that point?
It wasn't clear. It was murky, and it was like dyed blue, I think, and they had just dumped like more ice into it.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really good at swimming, but yeah, I get why that's kind of scary too, because it's like you can't really see. If it was like regular water, then yeah. So
yeah. So
what was the second one?
The second one that I skipped was apparently they also said it's like 5 foot on average depth, but I think it kind of varied probably between 4.5 to 5 feet. So like at some point it wouldn't have above my head. Once again, it's a moat, but it was a longer moat, more of a rectangular moat, and they had this like rolly pin, like a triangular rolly pin that you had to like get on top of and work with your teammates to like push so that like rotated over itself, and then like you kind of dove into the other side, and then you just like went up to the rope, and then you like climbed up the rope and then out.
Nice, dude. So overall, how did you do? How did you like it?
It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. And tying back into the conversation for the day, I definitely think that there's like, I mean, I know why I kind of reduced my training intensity because of like the hernia, for example. But I think I should have focused much more on developing like my glute strength. I think that's an area that really like missed out. So if I were to like go back knowing the knowledge I have now, I would add more like Bulgarian split squats with a wider stance to focus on like my glute strength, and then maybe even add some light like butt kickbacks, because my left knee, this happens on like long hikes sometimes too, but the outside of my knee, people would probably say like the IT band, but it only seems to be load dependent and volume dependent. So it's like load and volume dependent. For example, it happened a little bit during the Grand Canyon on the way up, but the outside of my left knee will just be like a little painful sometimes. What I found is when that happens, if I like massage out like my left glute medius, then like it's fine. Or if I just like rest even just a couple hours, usually it's fine. And then especially like a day, it's usually fully recovered. Like by the next day, it was totally fine. But having like to run down a mountain, that's putting like a lot of stress on the knee joint in particular. So that's where I was kind of feeling it. But yeah, no, it was good. It was really good. So that's that. Like in retrospect, I think I should have like put more emphasis on training my legs than I did, I think, throughout the whole time. But I finished it, so that's what matters. And I pushed myself too. I definitely could have pushed myself more from a cardio perspective, but I want to stick with the team. Like that was really important to me, and that's like kind of what we're gonna do. And we all finished at the same time, give or take. And probably the challenge that I'm like most proud of myself for doing, I wouldn't say that I have a fear towards heights, but I definitely like have an aversion to them. Like, you know, I'll go up to the 9th floor in like the Riverside building, for example, but like I wouldn't do that if I didn't have work, for example. Like I wouldn't just choose to do that. That's why it's like hard for me to be like, yeah, I'll go to the Willis Tower and go to like the 360 view. I'm like, no, that's an elective thing. I don't want to do that. Like I'm gonna soil myself. But they had like this 30-foot like triangle rope tower. So you like have to jump up. They have this like sheet of plywood, and they have like a 2x4. So you like jump up, get your foot up, grab the rope, pull yourself up to the rope ladder, and you like climb up like the 30-foot rope ladder, whatever. Swing your foot across like the top, and then you climb back down. So that was actually really cool. It was a lot of fun, and I was definitely like shitting bricks. My legs were shaking like the whole time, especially like on the way back down, but you just kind of take it slow and you like go at your own pace, and yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad that you did it, and I'm proud of you, man. That's like I said, that's what I love about like fitness is like you don't have to do the same stuff all the time, and if something seems challenging, like why not try it and go after it? So it's like at that point, like that's amazing, and you had a team to do it with, and it's like that's probably what the best thing about like life is. It's like if you have that team and you're doing stuff together, it's like, dude, it's like now you're gonna have stories on that with those group of people for like ever now, and you're gonna have memories of that, and it's gonna be like such a good like time in your life instead of just sitting there, you know, diddly daddling in your apartment all day, right? So
no, it was so cool. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Glad I took as much as I did to. And I think given the circumstances, I was in like pretty decent shape. It was funny. I ran into actually a couple of different people from my hometown.
nice.
Yeah, which was like so weird because like whatever down here in Massachusetts, and like we're way up here like in Stratton, Vermont. It was like over a 200-mile drive. So it's funny to see people from like my hometown. Like, hey, like I kind of know you. This is like super weird. Like, what's going on? So that was really fun. And then yeah, like the camaraderie is like absolutely absurd. People were so we like our team, we dressed up as the Avengers, and Joe kept on being like, Avengers assemble, and people were like cracking up, and people were like, oh hey Spidey, you know, because I was like wearing a Spider-Man suit or like shirt, and people were like, wait, you can't have two Spider-Mans, and we'd have to like explain like, no, I'm Tom Holland, and you know he's Tobey Maguire, you know, like that kind of. Yeah, it was fun.
If you guys don't remember, Joe was on our podcast too as well. So Joe is a familiar name. If you haven't checked out that podcast, check it out because Joe was on one of our episodes. He was one of our like 4 guests we've had, 3 guests on there. So he was one of the few.
Joe's a beast. There is this one.
Why'd you just call him a beast?
No, beast. EEA.
Oh. God, my bad.
But it was like pretty insane pulling strength, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but I did like a maximum hang before the event started, and it was like, so you like hold on to a rope or whatnot, and you just like hold your body weight up. I could only do it for like 37 seconds. So I was actually kind of disappointed. I figured I'd do at least a minute, but so I did that before we started. And then one of the hardest pulling challenges, or like holding challenges, or like, you know, back muscle challenge, was you had to jump to a rope that was like in the middle of a moat, like with water. You had to climb up the rope, then grab onto a ladder, swing across the ladder, grab like a circular, I don't know what to call it. It was like a wheel that like spun. So you grab onto it and it like swings you. And then you had to like kick a cowbell. And I think you could actually grab the cowbell probably to swing yourself in, but I didn't see anybody do that. Most people just kicked it and they would dump into the water and then swim to the like the rope, that the braided rope that would like kind of go up to help you to get out of the moat. Joe was the only one in our friend group that like got all the way to the end and kicked the cowbell. I couldn't even climb up the rope, which I was like so disappointed, but like, I just like, my hands were wet, but also I just couldn't grip the rope enough. So I'd like grab up and I like go to pull myself up and I'd be like, zoop. I'm like, no, what's going on? So I do it again and like, zoop. And I did it like 4 times. And I was like, this isn't working. So I just like dumped into the water and I'm like, doggy paddle, doggy paddle.
Yeah, and maybe I think Joe just has you beat on the dad streak since he is a dad. So he probably just has like those dad forearms from like holding a baby all day. So
100%.
But no, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because like the whole idea of this episode too is like, obviously we wanted to update because we've been talking about it so much, but like adding resistance training to like any like fitness event is like something that is like so important. And on my side of things, like obviously you guys know I'm running a marathon, and like Roman was running a Tough Mudder with like, you know, obviously the 9 miles and doing obstacles. So it's like strength and endurance pretty much at that point. But like for running for a marathon, so I had the idea in my head first so I was looking up on Google, like practice training for a marathon schedules, right? And like, what I've noticed, and I thought was absolutely like ridiculous and like crazy to believe, like some of the people that like train for a marathon, they'll run like 3 to 4 times a week, and I'm like, holy cow. Yeah. And in my opinion, I think that's way too much. Like in my opinion, I think there should be training programs out there for like resistance training and running, because the fact that like even I forgot what doctor that was on one of Rhonda Patrick's podcasts, but like he even mentioned to himself, like he was a runner like his whole life, and he barely dedicated any resistance training or like recovery in the gym with resistance. And he like pretty much like openly admitted it, like, yeah, for sure, like I got beat up from running because of that. Like I all I did was focus on running, and to the point where I never really did like any exercises for my joints. And like Roman was saying, like maybe because I had, you know, weak glutes, like maybe, you know, I could help with like some soreness. Also, like he mentioned, like his knee joint, and like how like maybe the muscles around it, if it was stronger, like maybe he would have an advantage over the other people. Obviously, he had like in a team event, and it's not really like competitive, but like my brother is also running the marathon with me, and he's following a plan. So I was just curious in doing an investigation on like training programs, and like especially with like long distance running. Like I could tell you this right now, I'm no like perfect person when it comes to like training for a marathon, but I've realized like the method I'm doing, it could be 1 or 2 days of running, but like if I didn't have resistance training or like recovery methods for resistance, like AKA pulling the sled, or doing like, you know, like sissy squats where like I'm squatting on pretty much my tiptoes. If I didn't do any of that stuff, I feel like my ankles, my feet, my knees would just be bent out of shape. So that's the reason why I kind of want to, like, we wanted to bring up this topic, because the fact that like I advised them like, hey, still make sure. And Roman did this to me too. Like Roman's like, Antoine, like I know your calves are sore, but like try to do like 1 or 2 like working sets a week and see how it helps your running. See if it hurts your running. So I pretty simply told my brother, like like some of the exercises that I'm currently doing that has helped my soreness. And like today I ran the 9 miles, and today was a deload week for me because I've been pretty much adding a mile on like every week. And I realized like if I keep doing that, I'll be running a marathon by like October or November, and the marathon's in January. That there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a point where it's like kind of like, hey, you don't need to be keep adding on a mile. So I did like pretty much like 60% of what I did last week. I did 16 miles last week, and I did 9 miles this week. And today, like it felt like a breeze. But see, the thing is, like, I think if I didn't dedicate all that other time to like resistance, like exercise and recovery, I wouldn't feel as good. I wouldn't feel as good when it came to like soreness afterwards. Because like I've told Roman before, like it's only pretty much like the day of that I get really like kind of bent out of shape, but like the next day, like I'm like pretty much like 60-70% like recovered. And I think that's like crazy because like I'm not a runner, never really ran long distance, and I never ran anything past like 10 miles before. So anything past 10 miles I've never ran before, but I feel like Roman and I have like a good understanding where it's like you could see that and kind of think like, damn, like should you be running 4 or 5 times a week like when you're training a marathon? Like, is that really necessary? In my opinion, I don't think so when it comes to like some of these training programs, but like I think there's a give or take when it comes to like resistance training. And if you don't like resistance training, like do the stuff that's going to help you save your joints. Where if you love long distance running, you could do it until like you're 70, 80 years old and have no problems at all. So I know that was kind of like long and open, Roman, but if you want to like comment, and then like maybe we could close it out because it's already kind of passed. But
yeah, no, that was perfect. And I'd say like because we try to be like as holistic as possible, or give you the full picture as much as possible. Another thing that like I know you do like on a regular, if not a daily basis, is like you go for walks too. So like undoubtedly that's still going to be putting stress on your joints, but it's like that much less. And I think that walking is like a great recovery modality. And then in addition to that, like I think it's also important to note that like your nutrition is pretty much on point. Like you make sure you hit like your protein targets. You are noticing that like your weight was still dropping. So you're like, where can I and that wasn't your goal anymore. So you're like, where can I afford up my macros? You're like, my protein's like right where I want it to be, kind of comfortable with my fats. So you added like a little bit of carbs until you got back to that point where you're like, okay, cool, I'm holding steady with my weight again. And then like you also prioritize sleep and then like enough sunlight. So you definitely have like a holistic picture, I would say, or as much as like is possible within like the day-to-day of like a busy like working professional type dealio. So it's so funny because like oftentimes like in the world that we live in, it's just like you want to get information. Okay, I'm going to go to YouTube. Okay, what is the best exercise to do for recovery, for example? And it's like, that's great. But like on the flip note, that person probably also makes sure that they have like adequate amounts of protein, fats, carbs, etc. in their diet. Like they make sure that they get like adequate sleep so that they can recover, so that they can like reset their clock, reduce their stress, like all these different things. So it's more than just like, oh, the 3 recovery exercises that are gonna like speed up your recovery from this workout. And then I also say like, if you want to run 4 to 5 times a week, like no problem. I think I used to run 6 days a week, maybe even 7 sometimes. Never super long. The most miles I might have put on myself was like maybe like 50 miles in a week, maybe not even that. But I mean, certain people, like if you're like an ultra marathoner, for example, like you might have to like be able to like get those miles on yourself, and you might have like a couple of like 20, 30 plus mile days. So that adds up. I've heard that like some ultra marathoners, they're doing like well over 100 miles, like in a training leading up to a marathon. So
I was just saying like specifically marathon, like obviously like there's other like goals within like running, but like it just I just saw it like specifically for marathons, and it's like I think it's kind of crazy. I mean, if your sole purpose is like running and maintaining running, like like I was saying about that one doctor, like prioritize like stuff where it's going to help you, be able to run into like you're 80 years old. Not that person where it's like, oh my gosh, because I ran 50 miles a week, now I need 2 knee replacements. See, like people like that, I think we mentioned like one of the last episodes, like people like that, it's just like, well, you ran 50 miles a week, but what are you doing now? Like now you have bad knees, you got a knee replacement, and then now you're doing nothing. So do you want to be that person too? Which in my mind is like, no. Like as much as I crush myself for like running and like lifting, like Roma was saying, like that holistic approach is probably why I can do that and be like successful for the long term. Also, too, I wanted to share this before we. I know we're like 5 minutes over, but I reposted this on my Instagram, my personal Instagram today. It said like it's from Squat University. Things athletes overvalue, which if you're listening to this, you might be this person, or you might know like multiple people like this. They overvalue pre-workout supplements, obviously, cryotherapy, massage guns. And then stop there. Think about yourself. Think about other people's around you, like your friends, family. And then things athletes undervalue, what Roman kind of talked about. And that's why it made me think about this. Sleep, quality nutrition, and technique. So it's like if you know the people that pretty much focus on the first three, then, or they post things like, oh my gosh, like dude, just this pre-workout supplement is great, and then after my workouts I use this $400 massage gun, which is great, and then I go to cryotherapy and get that done twice a week, which we've already talked about, like recovery methods as well. So that's
it's not sexy, it's not flashy, that's kind of like
it's not flashy to sleep sleep 8 hours so you can get that good recovery.
Yeah. But it's true. And if you have those boxes checked, like good sleep, good nutrition, you still have like light forms as well as like harder forms of exercise to like aid in the recovery process, for example. Then like if you want to add in like a Theragun, for example, for like a little like self like massage, is it going to speed up recovery? Probably not. Could it potentially like get you in a good mood to reduce your stress, and could that potentially help? So is it like a roundabout way?
Yeah. So I love all the angles we go at, man. I feel like we should just make we should just do like Joe Rogan numbers and just sit here for 3 hours and chat sometimes. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Follow us on Instagram, Gainz Podcast with a Z. We're on TikTok, YouTube. Follow my channel, Roman's channel. Make sure to subscribe to both. And then we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.